interesting.
Well, I think if you were talking about what would excite you, the Redbull model, for example, which I went to go and see a while back.
Right, you lot. So, what I'm going to talk today about is something that David Moyes has alluded to really since he came into the club, and that is to begin to develop an RB Leipzig-like model. But is what David Moyes is saying truthful in terms of, is it something that West Ham can implement? And I want to give a little bit of insight into the extent of the model, how it would have to be implemented, and how much would have to change at West Ham in order for us to be successful from it. So the first step of the RB Leipzig model is buying youth players under 23. They've got a strict policy whereby they buy young players with a view to develop them. Now that's something relatively simple to implement. I mean, if David Moyes wanted to do that, of course he could. So that's something we could do. The second thing would be having a sporting director. Now we've tried it with Huselios. It didn't work out. Yeah, they had someone called Ralf Rangnick. Now he is really well famed over in Germany. He's kind of the reason why Leipzig are where they're at. They brought him in, obviously. They've got a lot of resources, and he was given free rein in terms of how he wanted the team to play, how he wanted the youth teams to develop and play a style whereby they could move into the first team. So there was a continuity there. And now even people like AC Milan are looking at him. So this is the stature of the bloke. I don't believe David Moyes, unless I'm wrong, has worked under a sporting director before. At both Everton and Manchester United, he was given a lot of free rein in terms of what he wanted to do and have control over transfers. So not only is it a question of whether Sullivan would want a director of football, I seriously question whether David Moyes would like a director of football above him, trying to strategise and trying to influence a policy that may potentially affect who he's got to sign. Now, the other part to it, and this is probably the biggest element of it, is that RB Leipzig are obviously a massive brand, and they own multiple different clubs in different countries, Salzburg. So they have the opportunity, very similar to how Manchester City operate, where they've got a number of different clubs in different continents, and they're able to take these youth players that they develop through their academies and then put them into different first teams across the world in lower levels of football, but equally giving them the unique opportunity to have first team football and to develop. When we look at RB Leipzig, some of their key performers, Sabitzer, Werner, Upamecano, those players played in different RB Leipzig feeder clubs before they actually came to Leipzig. Of course, every club would love that luxury. Man City have done it to an extent. I believe they did it with Aaron Moy. In that respect, that strategy is perfect because you never really lose the player, and if anything, the player's only gaining value. So they're accumulating wealth. That is something West Ham cannot do. West Ham don't have the money. West Ham don't have the same size of resource and network that these other clubs have. And in fairness, it's not something that you can implement that easily without huge strategic investment. Why would this RB Leipzig model not work? It wouldn't work because the level of infrastructure and investment that you would need in order for it to be successful is so huge that a club like West Ham wouldn't necessarily outlay a bulk of their investment onto it. Obviously, we're in a situation where the majority of the money that we earn as a club has to really be reinvested in the playing squad. When you look at other projects like Leipzig and Manchester City, they built those clubs. And I think a common gripe from me is I would wish West Ham were building from the bottom up, and there was a strategy and there was a scouting department and things like that. And I think we lack that key structure and strategy for us to develop these opportunities. So when David Moyes talks about an RB Leipzig model, that's not a realistic aim. It's not. It really isn't.